always like to ask people about their phones in their pockets. And today they're sleeker, smaller, way more powerful. If that device kept getting more expensive and more complex, would that make it better? And that's the way people always envision power meters. It has to be big and expensive and have 20 strain gauges, and that made it a better product and better design, where we looked at it just the opposite. How do we make it lighter, more high-tech, easier to use, and a lower price point, simpler?
You know, the design was somewhat conceived out of just wanted an alternative. Started thinking about how can we do it, how can you save cost, how's an easy way to make it install. So it really drove to this idea of simplifying power. You know, you look at studies, you try to find data that said that doing only left power was a viable option, and it seemed like a pretty crazy idea.
About everything we did in this category was not traditional, and we're kind of proud of that. A lower price point by, you know, half or a third than anything on the market. You're talking about measuring power on one side. You're talking about it being 16 grams. You're talking about making it in the US.
Well, consistency is a huge part of quality in a power meter. You know, you want your power to be consistent day in, day out. Accuracy is great when you're comparing two different meters or two different riders, but consistency, when you're talking about the same rider on the same power meter training day in, day out, consistency is really what you want to know. Did you get better because you got better, or you got worse because you're sick, something like that, or did your power meter change?
There's a lot of involvement in what we do to make them consistent and accurate. You know, they have to meet that consistency and accuracy. So there's 16 individual steps that every single crank goes through to become a power meter. We have over 150 different models, so our production capacity and facility has to be super flexible with all the different links and all the different mounting styles. Every single crank goes through a calibration process. But not only do we do it for force, we also have to do it for temperature. One of our big innovations and new to the power meter category was the automatic adjustment for temperature without doing a zero reset or without coasting or without pedaling backwards. You can get on ours and just ride regardless of the temperatures outside. But to do that, we have to spend time calibrating it to different temperatures so it knows how that the strain gauge, crank, electronics, everything reacts. Right now what I'm doing is I'm streaming the amount of force and torque that are going through this crank arm right now. You can see it's hovering right around zero. But if I apply and bend, and I say bend because I am bending, apply a torque with my thumb, you'll notice the number goes up. That's what's happening when you're riding with our power meter. It's constantly doing that. So if I simulate more of a pedal stroke, it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. But that's how sensitive and what's going on the entire time you're riding. And this data can actually be recorded, which it's doing right now. You can send yourself an email with all the data and you can analyze your pedal stroke right from your own phone. We measure the force and the strain in a simpler place. We reduce componentry and complexity in our design, but at the same time we added technologies and features that nobody had done. So everything that we did was non-traditional, so it was met with great surprise, a lot of skepticism, but at the same time people were intrigued because we had the information, the data, and the science to go behind it.
You know, on the internet, a lot of the comments were fairly negative. How could it be accurate? Could this be true? Does it vary? At first it felt very defensive, you know, you're like, oh, I can't believe I brought this crazy idea and people are beating us up over it. A lot of times you take it very personally. You're like, oh, they're beating up my idea.
We were so confident that we had the product, that we knew what we were doing and the science behind it. It made it challenging, sure, but it also made it a lot of fun because when you see the success and you see people starting to follow and copy and being the underdog, probably one of the most proud moments was the underdog was announced in the Team Sky announcement. Because you talk about an underdog, somebody new coming to market, and then talking about partnering with one of the most well-respected teams that is known for new technologies and the use of data for training.
I went from, I kind of wanted to make one for myself, to I'm on a tour bus at the Vuelta sitting next to Chris Froome listening to the day's race plan. You know, you're like, this is very surreal. And then even probably a bigger compliment yet is other established companies are offering, you know, a left only, and some of them were some of the same people that said, no, you can't do that.
The proof's always in the pudding, right? You get results. You get results with Team Sky. You get World Championship time trials on our power meter. Obviously, where pacing is hugely important. You see people's fitness levels and their gains. You know, they beat their buddy to the top of the hill when they didn't used to be able to do it. This is just the beginning of the power meter business, and there will be a lot more developments, and it will be fun to participate and drive a lot of those developments.